In this video, I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to law firm PPC in 2025. I'm going to show you the exact strategies that I use to run Google Ads campaigns for about a dozen law firms right now who are getting extremely good results on Google Ads. I'm going to walk you through the exact process of how to set everything up, how to run it, and a few tips and tricks that you need to know in order to make Google Ads successful in 2025. There's one particular one that I'm going to include later in the video, which is an absolute key for getting the campaign to succeed now with all this AI learning and everything that Google's putting in on the back end and the keywords getting broader. So this is a must-have. If you don't do this, it's probably not going to work anymore and your time is definitely limited. So stay tuned for that one. In the meantime, I'm Mate Matic, the founder of Dominate Marketing, where I do PPC for law firms on a no-win, no-fee basis, meaning I have to make it work in order to get paid. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. First of all, if you don't already have an account, you're going to need to go to Google Ads and you're going to need to make an account. So what you want to do is you want to go to ads.google.com. This is the homepage and you need to click to sign up. Now, you want to claim this credit so you get some free money to advertise with. What happens is if you're a new advertiser with a brand new account with a Gmail that doesn't have any other ad accounts on it, you can actually claim ad credit. And so you'll spend a certain amount of money and then they'll match it. So if you click claim now, it's going to take you down. In my case, it won't. But if you click choose now, it's going to scroll you down to this section here where you can pick what offer you want to take. Now, if you're going to spend money on Google Ads, which if you're a law firm, you're basically going to have to spend a decent amount of money. What you want to do is you probably want to do this one. So you spend $3,600, you get $1,800 in ad credit for free. So basically you have to spend the money first, but they're going to give you a bit of money in addition to that once you've spent it as a bonus. So you may as well sign up for this and get this credit while you're here. Now that you actually have an account, we can begin on setting everything up. So the very first thing you're going to need to do is keyword research. So for this, you want to use the Google Ads Keyword Planner, and this is going to allow you to find the keywords that you should target with your campaign. You want to take this list and export it and then separate it into positive and negative keywords. And I'm going to show you quickly how to do that. You can also get a cost estimate, so what it's going to cost you to get the clicks and bid on these keywords and actually get this traffic. I'm going to explain the keyword search intent in a second as well, and also how to niche down with these keywords. So very first thing, you would go into your Google Ads account, which is what it will look like here once you've signed up. You want to go here to Tools, Planning, Keyword Planner. And this is going to open up the Keyword Planner for you. And now, once this loads, what you want to do is click Discover New Keywords. Now you want to input the keyword that you want to target and you want to input your target location. So for example, let's say that we're in Los Angeles. You would type it in and hit enter and it will select it, or you can select it yourself. Or if you want to go broader and just select the entire area, you can click this one here and that will select the more broader section you can see here. It's not really important for this video. Point is you want to select your target location and click save. And then you want to type in the keywords that you think you would want to target. So my advice would be do practice area of law and then attorney or lawyer at the end of it. So for example, if you're a car accident attorney, you would want to type in car accident injury attorney, let's say. And now Google will basically do the rest for you and it's going to pull up the entire list of keywords that it recommends and thinks is related to what you just typed in. So you can see here, we've got our keyword and it will give you the average monthly searches for this keyword. So you get an estimate of how many people are looking for this. And then the other important thing it gives you is the top of page bid range. So this is the estimate that it thinks you will need to spend in order to get on page 1 of Google for this with your ad. So you can see for car accident attorney in LA, it's between 120 and 900 New Zealand dollars. Ignore the New Zealand dollar thing for now. It's just because the setting of this account. But basically this is approximately 70 US dollars to about 500 US dollars. So somewhere between there is where you're going to expect to pay to show your ads. Now, in my experience, it tends to be closer to this one. So be aware of that it tends to go towards here. With this, you can now see what keywords you should target along with their search volumes and along with the bids here. Now, a couple of tricks with this. One, if this is showing up here, this means Google thinks this keyword is relevant to this one. So if you put car accident injury attorney even as an exact match these days as your keyword, it's probably going to match with everything on this list. So what that means is you need to pull out all of the ones here that are not related. For example, non-injury accident lawyers, if you only want injured people contacting you, and add those as negative keywords. So that's what I meant by export the list. And I'm going to show you that in a second. The other thing you want to pay attention to is the volume and see which ones get the most volume. So how many people search them, and see if there's enough here to get the volume you want to actually spend your money and the budget that you want to put towards it. And then you've got the estimated CPC or cost per click here. The thing to note here is that the ones with a higher CPC tend to be the ones that convert better. And so that's the thing you need to pay attention to. If you're going to target a keyword and you see here that it has a surprisingly low bid, there you go, the non-injury one, you can see here that the estimated cost is significantly lower than the other ones. And it's because these ones are probably not worth as much, which means that the other firms don't want to pay to bid on them as high as they do for some of these more competitive ones like this one, which is potentially trucks or something like that. Maybe not, but maybe it just converts very well. Same with this one here. So you want to pay attention to that because that can be an indicator of whether this is a good keyword or not to include. So you've got this list here. We're talking about car accidents. What we can do is scroll over to the right and you'll see this button here. This is going to allow you to export this list. I recommend you export it. You can either do it as a CSV or a sheet. You click it and it will export the list for you. I'm just going to do it quickly here and show you. And now you can see down here that it has prepared the sheet, and we can open the sheet. This is going to give us the same data in here. So you can see all the keywords and everything else we just looked at in that table. Basically, quickly what you want to do is remove these, and you can basically remove this and remove all of them except for these. Just go delete, get rid of all this. Basically, we just want to sort these keywords out. So I'm just going to highlight this as well. All right. And now what you want to do is sort these keywords out into two lists. I recommend you make two different tabs here. One as positive and one as negatives. And the positive one is going to be the keywords that you target, and the negative ones is going to be the ones you exclude in the negative keyword list. And you would just go through this list and just add them. So for example, let's say we want anything to do with injury specifically, just to be sure. You would take them, car injury. So let's say we did this. Let's say that was the whole list. We paste them in here. And we've got the keywords we want to target here. And then let's say we want to exclude a few of them. So non-injury, let's say car insurance, auto insurance, because these might not be related. And you can see the bids are way lower. We'll take those, we'll throw them in the negatives. And then basically what that means is we're going to come back to this list later. I'm going to show you where to put these. Basically what that means is if someone searches these phrases, your ad shouldn't show up and you won't pay for them. And so that's going to save you from spending money on keywords that you don't actually, or are unlikely to convert into anything that's going to be profitable for you. Two last notes before we move on from the keywords. The first one is the search intent that I mentioned. What you need to be aware of is what's the search intent behind the keywords you're selecting. So for example, somebody searching car accident lawyers near me is a pretty high intent that they want a car accident lawyer near them, so they're most likely to actually use somebody. However, they didn't include the word injury, so there is a possibility that it might not be an injury matter. So in my opinion, something like car accident injury attorney near me, which should probably be down this list somewhere, accident injury attorneys near me, but you'd want to have car or auto because this could be a different accident. The one that would be the highest likelihood that I would expect to convert would be car injury lawyer near me or auto accident injury lawyer near me. Those are probably the highest intent, and then you start getting lesser and lesser as you go down the list to the point where you've got accident lawyer, which is kind of vague. Now, the CPC is quite high for this one, so it's possible that this does still convert, but you need to be aware of this. If you search something like car accident injury, that is now a very vague term, and it's not as likely that they're looking for a lawyer to actually help them with it. And so you wouldn't want to bid on that, and you just need to note these points about search intent. Otherwise, you could end up bidding for keywords that are never going to convert into actual potential clients. And so just be aware of that. The second thing is to niche down. And so what I mean by that is within car accident, you have a lot of different areas. You've got motorcycle accidents, you've got truck accidents, you've got pedestrian stuff, you've got bicycle accidents. What I would recommend you do is niche down as far as you can, because the more niche you can go, the lower the search volume will be, but also the lower the competition and the higher likelihood they are to actually convert. So what I'd recommend is that you go and see if you can find something. So for example, something more specific. So serious car accident attorney, something like that maybe, or serious injury. So serious car accident attorney is actually one, which is interesting. Maybe something along the lines of serious injury or surgeries or something like that. You can see there are a few for serious injury. These are probably more likely to convert into something bigger. And so you want to try and dig out as niche as you possibly can. Like, for example, let's say like wrongful death or something like that might be something to look at if you're trying to target those kind of cases. And so getting as specific as you can, as long as there's still searches, is typically going to work better. So you want to do that as well. On to point 2, setting a realistic budget. So you need to set a realistic budget if you want your Google Ads account to even stand a chance at actually working. If you set an account that will have enough budget for like 1 or 2 clicks a day, it's very unlikely that you're going to get consistent results. So you need to be realistic about how much you actually need to spend for this to have a good shot at actually working. So what you can do is, like I showed you already, you can use the Google Ads Keyword Planner to get the estimated CPCs. And this will give you a good idea of what you're actually going to have to spend to convert a lead or actual paying client. So typically what happens if you run Google Ads correctly is that you will get about 10% converting into an actual decent lead, especially once you train the account up. And then about 20% of those should convert into actual paying clients. Now, there's obviously a lot of variation there. It depends how good your funnel is. It depends how good your team or yourself is at selling the services and converting the people into paying clients. But those are typically the numbers I see across the board on average. So what that allows you to do is calculate what's going to happen. So this basically means 2% of people will convert into a paying client. And so what you can do here is now you can take this and estimate what it's going to cost you. So let's say, for example, you land somewhere roughly in the middle here and say you pay about $500 per click for this personal injury, for car accident injury. You can now calculate that. It's going to take you 50 people to actually convert a paying client. And so what you can do is 500 times 50 is $25,000. So it's going to roughly cost you $25,000 realistically to get a paying client if you're paying $500 per click. And so now you can see how much it's going to cost you, right? So it's going to cost you about $5,000 per lead realistically. And then 20% of those will convert, which is 1 in 5, which is times that by another 5. So you're going to get about $25,000 per converted client. And so now you know how much you need to spend approximately and on average to get this. Now, if you throw $25,000 at this in the first month, it's not guaranteed you're going to close somebody, but roughly if you run this campaign for a while, that's probably what you're going to see. So be aware of that. Now, like I said already, but I just want to re-emphasize this, Google needs a decent budget to be able to work properly. So often the biggest reason that campaigns are not doing well is simply that they're not spending enough. It truly is the case that if you just don't spend enough money, it doesn't have enough to optimize for or with, and it can't get you the results no matter what you do and how well the campaign is set up if you're not spending enough. So if you're only spending, let's say cost per click is $500 and you're only spending $500 or $1,000 a day, it's going to be tough to get anywhere with that, simply because it just can't do what it needs to do to optimize. And it's going to take such a long time for it to show your ads, see what worked, see what didn't, see what converted, optimize from there, that you're talking months and months before you see anything. And it's going to feel like the campaign's not working when in fact it's doing its job. It's just limited by the budget. So bear that in mind. Now, number 3, setting up the actual campaign. So at this point, we know what to expect. We know how much we should be spending. And we've got our keyword list that we've set up. If you followed my instructions before, went through the whole thing, separated all the keywords out, made your list, we can now start setting up the campaign. So the very first thing about this is the bidding strategy. What should you set up as the bidding strategy in the Google Ads account? My recommendation is to start with maximize clicks and build up the conversions and only focus on keywords that are likely to convert with exact match. And I'm going to go into that when we get to the keyword section. But basically what this does is it gives you the most unbiased approach to doing it, where you throw it out there with no influence, let's say, and see if this actually works and what happens. Because what can happen is if you use an automated bidding like maximize conversions with no data in the account, it can actually take longer to get conversions and actually build it up. That's been my experience, at least anyway, especially if you pair it with, let's say, broad match right from the beginning. It's just going to burn through your budget and all kinds of irrelevant searches until it finally figures out what's working. Whereas this way you can at least guide it in the right direction from the beginning. Now be aware that the cost per clicks will be high at the beginning. So you will probably be on that upper end of that estimated cost per click. That's just the nature of it. Especially I've found that any exact match keywords tend to be extremely expensive now with Google. I think they're doing it to discourage people using it or whatever the reason is. But the fact is that it will be on the high end, but you need to get over that hump and just build up the conversions with the exact match so that you're actually targeting the right people. And I'm going to go into that later in this video as well and explain why that's so important, especially now. Now, just quickly so you know, what you would do is you would go into your campaigns and you would click, when you're setting it up, it'll give you the bidding options. And so you can set them. So when you're setting up a new campaign, I'll show you where it's going to give you the bidding options. So let's say you've done all this, you click continue, you usually go here, get through this section, and right here is where it goes bidding. And so what you'll want to do, this is basically the first step in the campaign setup process, just make sure you click clicks here. And if you want to put a maximum cost per click limit so it doesn't go blowing your budget out of proportion, you certainly can. I would recommend though that you stay within that range that we saw here on the positive side. If you go too low, just nothing will happen. So if you find that you set max CPC and nothing's happening, no impressions, no clicks, you might have to raise the max CPC. But at the very least, just run it on clicks like this for now. Don't worry about this for now because it's a new account. You can't do much about that. And then you would hit next, and that's how you set your max CPC. The next is a campaign structure. So what you want to do is you want to separate your ad groups based on location, the budget that you want to put to each campaign, and the ad schedule, meaning what times the campaigns are showing. The reason why is because these are all campaign level settings. You can't set them by the ad group level. So you want to separate the campaigns by these settings here. Now you can certainly make several campaigns all with the same settings for each of these, but targeting different areas, but with their own specific budget. If you want to put specific, like let's say a specific amount of money towards car accidents, a specific amount of money towards motorcycle, then you would split them into two separate campaigns. However, if you're just running one campaign, you want to keep it simple at the beginning, which is probably what I'd recommend. You would set one campaign, it will target the same location, have the same budget that spreads across all the ad groups, and the same ad schedule, which I'll get into a little bit later. And then you would want to separate your ad groups out into practice areas. So what I mean by that is, let's say we got our keyword list. One ad group would be car accidents, another one would be motorcycle accident injury, and then another one would be truck accident injury attorney. Now this one should be attorney as well. And so what that allows you to do is now you can make specific ads for motorcycle, specific ads for truck, and specific ads for car accident as well. And they can each go to their specific pages. If you lump all of these into one ad group, you won't be able to make the specific ads for the specific topic. It'll just merge them all together and show randomly which ones to which ones. And trust me, that's not going to work well. So you want to make sure that you split them out at least at the ad group level into the different practice areas that you're offering. And then you would have the specific ads, which we're going to go into in a minute. One thing I just want to make a note of as well is when you're setting up your campaign in the campaign settings, you want to make sure that you go into networks here and untick these two. So usually these two will be ticked, or at least this one will be. You want to make sure that you untick these because this is just going to waste your ad budget and get you low quality clicks or potentially bot clicks. Just don't do it. Trust me on this one. Untick those two and just run them only on Google search because that's what you want. If you tick these, they're going to show up on these other search engine partner sites, which are not going to get you good results. And this is going to show on the display network, which is definitely not going to work in this case. So just untick them like that. Now, moving on, location targeting. So the next thing is you've done untick these. What you want to do is you want to set your target location, which will now be here. But you want to make sure that you tick one specific option. So first of all, you would enter your location. So let's say we were doing Los Angeles again. You would want to select the target location. You go include. Now here's the important part. You want to click location options and you want to select presence in. By default, it does presence or interest in, which means people in, regularly in, or who've shown interest in your targeted location. The problem with this is somebody from, let's say, Mexico could search car accident injury attorney Los Angeles, but they're very unlikely to actually convert. And so there's no point paying those high CPCs for that when the chance of them actually converting into a paying client is very low. By selecting just presence, it means they have to physically be in the location to actually get the ad shown to them. So they actually have to be in Los Angeles. And so that's what I would recommend doing here. It's going to make a big difference to your ad budget. Right, so now once you've done this, you've got all these settings, you can move on and go to making your ad. So I would recommend that you just skip this step in the ad creation process. It's just annoying and makes things difficult, so don't worry about that. This is the keywords, which we're going to come back to in a minute. Let's just remove all this. And we're now in the ad section here. So firstly, you want to throw in your final URL over here, and you want to put a display one. So let's say, for example, we are doing car accidents. You just go car accident attorney or something very similar. You could do car accident. Just make it so that it's relatively relevant to whatever you're targeting. It's not too important though. What is important is the headlines. So here's how I like to do it. Google's going to try and recommend that you fill out all these variations, and then it's going to mix and match. The problem with that is you're going to get a bunch of nonsensical mix and matches that don't actually help with anything. What I recommend you do, and this is what's performed by far the best for me after numerous tests and trials and everything, is pin each of these to the respective position. So you got headline 1, 2, and 3. Pin headline 1 to position 1, headline 2 to position 2, headline 3 to position 3. Now, this is going to force these to show in this order, which means you can now display what exactly you want to show up as headline 1, 2, and 3. Now, here's how I recommend you do it. Headline 1 should contain the main keyword or a variation of it that you're targeting. So in this case, it would be car accident injury attorney. And what that's going to do is it's going to get the attention of the person searching because that's what they searched for, and this is telling them that this is exactly what they searched for. Then I recommend doing headline 2 as some kind of call to action. So get a free consultation, for example, or call us now, free consult, or whatever the call to action that you have is, but make it action based. Ask them to actually do something. Call us now, book a consult, something along those lines, because that will encourage them to actually do it. And it sounds obvious, but it does actually work. It increases the click-through rate. And then the third headline, which you should be aware usually doesn't show, so don't put anything too important here, but you want to put some kind of value proposition in headline 3. That's what I like to do. So let's say, for example, like over 200 million one for clients. That might not fit, but something like that, right? Some kind of value proposition. You get the idea. So that's what I would put in headline 3. Most of the time it's not going to show. In the descriptions, you can basically put whatever you want. These are less important than the headlines because the headlines are the big text. However, I would recommend at least including the keyword in here somewhere because it's going to show up bold. And the other thing I would recommend you do is have a call to action here as well. So just reiterate why they should use you. So, we help car accident injury victims get maximum compensation, book a consultation with our jury attorneys. Something like that. And those usually work. Now, these you can pin to position 1 and 2 if you have something specific. If not, you can leave these to rotate. It's not going to make a huge difference. It's just to make the ad make sense. You can also add 2 more variations if you want to. That's up to you. I don't recommend either way. It won't make that much of a difference in my experience. Now, for now, I would leave the rest of this as is, and we're going to come back to these assets a little bit later. But right now we have our first ad. And so now we can move on to the next part. So once you've made this ad variation, what you want to do is you want to go into ads here, and you want to go here, and you want to click edit and copy, and you want to paste 2 of these ads again into the same thing. So click done, click if exists, create duplicate, and then you want to hit paste. Okay, hit paste. Make sure you click this one, otherwise it's not going to work. And then hit paste. And so what's going to happen now is it's going to paste another variation of this ad, the exact same thing, which we're going to edit. And I'm going to do this one more time as well. Okay, do it one more time. And what's going to happen is now you'll have 3 versions. And so what you want to do is you want to edit 2 of them and change something about them. So typically one of the headlines is where I start with this, but you can also test the descriptions as well if you want. But usually the headlines is where you're going to have the biggest thing. So what you can do is one of them, you can try like a different call to action on headline 2. So for example, free 30-minute consultation. See if that one works out better. Click save ad. And then you also want to do the other one as well. So do the third one. So you've got free 30-minute consultation. This one, let's say we do a slightly different variation on the ad. So we go auto accident lawyer. And you can also include your location as well. So we could do like LA in this case, because those can work well as well, and then hit save. And now we have 3 variations of the ad. And so what you're going to find is typically one's going to perform the best and one's going to be like an underperformer. And so then you would drop that and duplicate the best one and create a variation on that to see if you can improve it. And I'm going to talk about that in the improvement section a little bit later. And so the next thing we have is the assets, otherwise known as the ad extensions. Basically, these are the add-ons that go under the ad, like site links, extra bits of text, the phone number, address, things like that. What they do is they help to take up more room, increase the percentage of people that click the ad, so otherwise known as the click-through rate or CTR. Basically, it just helps to get more people to click the ad and actually land on your website. The common ones for law firms are phone numbers, call outs, structured snippets, site links, locations. What you do is you go into the ads platform and you find this here. On the left side, you'll see this column, and then you have assets. You want to click that. And in here is where you can manage these. Now, you probably also want to do the image, the business name, and the business logo. Upload the business logo, the business name, and some images that will actually show up in the ad as well. And then here you can add site links, where you would go here and you can actually input links to different pages on your website with a title. And so that will get people to link to those as well. So try and keep them as relevant as you can. For example, if it's car accidents, maybe you can list out the different types of traffic accident injury that you would offer as well. I would leave out headline and description because you want them to show up the way you want to, so leave those blank. Call outs are just extra little bits of text you can add. So I would put those in here. They're 25 characters. So basically free consultation. You can basically write whatever you want in here. So just put any more value propositions or things to help convince people to click on you, over 40 years experience, things like that, right? You just fill those out because basically their main purpose is just to add any more additional information you want to include and encourage people to click and take up more space. So you would just do that and hit save. You would do the same thing for structured snippets. So with these, typically I would do service catalog, and then you could have like car accident injury, motorcycle accident injury, truck accident injury, etc. This one's a bit too long, so what I'm going to do is just do that and then hit save. And so now that can show up as well. The call extension is your phone number, so you would press this and just add your phone number as well. And then location, you would link this to your Google business profile and it will show your firm office's address as well. And so that can help too, especially if people are looking for a local attorney. Those are the ones that I recommend you use if you're running a law firm campaign. Now, we're finally at the keywords. So here's what to do with that list that you pulled out earlier. So what we're going to do is go back to the ad account and we'll go to campaigns. And then actually we're going to go here to audiences, keywords, and content, but you want to make sure that you've clicked the correct campaign first, and then you go keywords. And so here is where we're going to start adding our keywords. And what you want to do once you're in campaigns is click the ad group that you want to add the keywords for. So we're going to add keywords per ad group. You don't add them per the whole campaign. This is why we're going to split the different practice areas into the different ad groups. So you want to click that ad group, and now you're in the keyword section. And so what you want to do, I'm just going to remove this one because I had to add it earlier, so let's just remove it. You want to go back to your list from before with the sheet, and you want to pull out the positive keywords, and you want to copy them, and we're going to paste them in here now. You want to hit paste, hit save, and now you can see that we're now targeting these keywords with this particular ad group. But now what I recommend you do is you hit all, edit, change match type, and we're just going to change these to exact match, and then hit apply. And so that's just going to make sure that we're not broadly targeting them, but that we're targeting the exact keyword that we included here. Now, there is variance there. Google does put quite a bit of leeway on them, much more so these days, but I still recommend you do this. And you can see now it's changed to exact match. So now our target keywords are input for this ad group. We want to now go to negative keywords, and we want to go back to our sheet to the negative keyword column and take these keywords. And we want to go plus negative keywords on the ad group level in this case, and then paste them in here and then hit save. And so now that's going to exclude these keywords. Now these are broad match. So what I recommend you do is you go edit and change these match type to exact as well, because these might exclude your main keywords because they're broad match because some of them are similar. For example, car accident, lawyers, no injury. It might not understand that that's actually a slightly different thing, and it might exclude your main keyword. So just make them exact match here as well. Realistically, if you've done this all the way through and thoroughly, you may well have hundreds of negative keywords in here. That's totally normal. So you can do that, especially now you want to be super vigilant with it because of the way that Google just broadly targets so much. So be vigilant with the negative keywords and include as many as you need to that you see from the list. And now we're basically good to go on the keywords side. The next thing you want to do is the ad schedule. So this is where you're going to set this up, what times of the day the ads are going to show. So we go back to the account and we're going to go to the campaign, and you need to click the campaign, go back to the campaign level. And then here under audiences, keywords, content, we have ad schedules. So here is where we're going to set this. So my recommendation is you set Monday to Friday, and you set whatever hours are actually available for someone to answer the phone. So whether that's, let's say, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whether it's like 9 to 5, whatever the case is, you want to set that and then hit save for this particular campaign. And so now you can see your ads are only going to show in this particular window, which is when you're most likely to get conversions. And in my experience, this is always where the majority of keywords come from anyway. Sometimes you might get to like 8, 9 p.m. So if you can answer the phone that late, that's fine. But anything like 3, 4, 5 a.m., you usually don't get good conversions anyway. So I wouldn't recommend running ads, certainly after midnight and before like 7 a.m., because typically you don't get many good conversions come through there anyway. So that's how you set this up. And I would definitely recommend setting this up, especially if you have a phone number where people can call you. You want to make sure that you're actually answering those calls. Now, on to the next point, which is landing pages. Now, these are specific pages that you send from the ad to that page. That's where they go when they click the ad. And so you want to make sure that these pages are specific about whatever the topic is that you're advertising for. So if it's car accident injury attorney, they need to go to that specific page about car accident injury attorneys. You do not want to send them to something unrelated, or, for example, the home page, which is a common mistake. And I've written that here. Never send traffic to the home page, especially if you're dealing with something so expensive as personal injury or criminal defense, or these ones where you're spending hundreds of dollars a click. The last thing you want to do is send them to the home page where you don't give them exactly what they're looking for, and a large percentage of these people just leave, because that's what's going to happen. You want to make sure that you send them to a landing page which talks about exactly what they're looking for and basically gives them the solution to their problem. And that's how you're going to get the best conversion rate, the highest amount of these people actually contacting you and becoming a potential client and paying a case for your firm. Now, these landing pages must have a call to action, a CTA, with a form and a phone number on that specific page. Don't click a button and make them go to the contact page or whatever it is. You should assume that these people will only ever see this one page and put absolutely everything they need to make a decision about whether to contact you or not on that one page. Don't make them go clicking around. Don't make them go looking for other stuff. Don't include your case study somewhere else. You want to put everything you need to convince them to essentially buy from you or use your services on this page. And that includes testimonials, any information you need, reviews, case studies, and anything else that you think will convince them. You want to put them on there. Now, I have an entire video on how to set these pages up. I'll put a link above where you can go watch that, where I explain exactly how I write the copy, how I set them up, absolutely everything. But here's an example of what one of those will look like. This is an example one I made for another video a while back. You can see just roughly what this looks like. You'll have the main headline with the keyword in it. Okay, this is about criminal defense, not personal injury, but you get the idea. You've got a CTA here, which takes them straight to the form down the bottom. You've got content here, which addresses all their pain points and why they should use you and what will happen if they don't take this seriously, don't use the right lawyer, etc. Another call to action explaining how we can help with the areas of criminal defense we offer. Then a little bit about the firm and a picture of the attorney, in this case, the principal. Now, I would recommend you always have at least someone's face on there here, whether it's the principal, whether it's the whole team, because it makes it look more real and personal and people are more likely to actually relate to that. Then we've got the reviews. I would also include case studies here if you've got them. And then you've got the map just showing where they service, or you would have the law firm's office address on here. And then we've got the phone number and the form here at the bottom. So everything they would need that we can give them to make a decision is on this one page. And that's what you should be doing with these landing pages. Now, on to potentially what's the most important thing for Google Ads moving forward, and that's conversion tracking and training the conversions correctly for your account. This is becoming more and more important, and quite frankly, I believe is the number one key to success at this point with Google Ads. The biggest mistake you can make is to not track conversions at all, or track all of your conversions and get it to optimize for those conversions. So every form submit or phone number click or whatever you're doing, the problem is you're going to get a bunch of unqualified ones coming through there, and it's going to optimize for the unqualified ones, because a lot of the time, especially in the early stages, a lot of them will be unoptimized, and it's going to spiral itself out of control and optimize to get you the unqualified type of leads. And that's the exact opposite of what you want. What you want to do is set up a conditional conversion that will only track qualified leads and only send back the qualified ones to Google so that it optimizes for more of those. You want to set up a form that has some kind of qualifying questions on the front end. And what we'll do is it will send the qualified people to one thank you page, which actually sends the data back to Google and tracks as a conversion. And you want to send the unqualified people back to another page that doesn't have the data being sent back to Google, and so it won't even know it occurred, and it won't continue optimizing for those. Now, I made a video on how to set all this up. I'll put a link above where you can go and watch that, and I'll show you how to set up those forms and also the phone numbers, which is what I would recommend, that you set up phone call tracking. I use Nimbata to do this, but you can also use CallRail, whatever other one you want to use. Don't just use phone number clicks because it's going to optimize for all the unqualified phone calls. What you want to do is you want to make sure that it's recording and transcribing the calls, and then you put some qualification. At the very least, put like 2-minute phone calls or something like that. But at best, if you can qualify those phone calls somehow and send back the qualified ones to Google, that would be even better. That's what you want to do. And then it's only going to optimize for the qualified form submissions and the qualified phone calls. And over time, this is going to have a compounding effect where a few months down the road, you're going to have a very high performing Google Ads account because it knows who to go after and who to find that's going to be the type of person you actually want to come in. So like I said, watch my video on how to set all this up. I'll put a link above and in the description below where you can watch how to set up these forms and these phone calls, and so that you can actually track it correctly and not waste your money optimizing and training the account to go after the completely wrong people, because that is a very bad thing to do. Now, ongoing optimizations for the Google Ads account that you should be doing over time as you run these ads. So the first one is the search terms. You want to go through the search terms report regularly, at least once a week, especially in the early stages, and exclude anything unrelated to what you're actually optimizing for. So what that means is you would go here, back in the account. You want to go to Insights and Reports and Search Terms. And in here, it's going to give you a list that looks very similar to the keyword list. However, this is going to be the actual search terms that your ads showed for when someone typed in. And you're going to find a lot of stuff here that's not related to what you actually should be showing for. So for example, competitor names. You'll also find lots of practice areas that have nothing to do with what you're actually trying to offer, but Google thought was related, all kinds of things. And you want to go through that list. You will have a little tick box on the side. You want to click them all and add them all to negative keywords. And so over time, as you keep doing this, you're going to show for less and less unrelated searches, and the account's going to perform better and better overall. So you want to be doing this regularly, especially at the beginning, at least once a week, possibly every couple of days, depending on how much you're spending and how many clicks you're getting and how many impressions. Because if you don't monitor this regularly, especially early on, you can very quickly be spending the majority of your budget on keywords that will never turn into anything for you. So be careful about that. And the second thing is the ad improvements of the ads themselves. So what you want to do is once you have some data, you want to go in and check your actual ads themselves and see if any variations are underperforming and which variations are doing well. What you'll typically find is that one or two of the variations are doing better than the other one, and one is going to be typically a very low performer by a significant margin. And so you want to pause that one, and you want to leave the good performers, either the one or the two, and you want to duplicate the best one and then make a variation of that. So change one of the headlines or maybe the descriptions and see if you can get it to perform even better. Now, what you want to look at is you want to look at click-through rate, conversion rate, and cost per acquisition. So if we go into the ads, let's say you're looking at the ad here. If you scroll over, you will see CTR here, which means click-through rate, what percentage of people that actually saw the ad clicked on it, which is a good indicator of if you are targeting the right keywords and if you're showing the right ad to those keywords so that people are finding what they're looking for. Now, you want to be somewhere above 5%, closer to 10%. If you can, that means you're doing a good job. If you're under 5%, typically something is off. Then the next thing you want to look at is the conversion rate and the cost per conversion. These two are going to indicate to you how well this person or these people that click this ad actually convert. You should be somewhere in the 5 to 10% range typically on the conversion rate. If it's below that or not converting at all, then you'll probably want to drop it once you've got, let's say, 20 plus clicks on the ad, especially. And then the second thing you want to do over time for optimizations is the ad improvements. So if we go back to the ads, we had those 3 variations that we created. What you're going to find is that one of them is probably going to be an underperformer and one of them is probably going to perform better than the others. Sometimes 2 of them, if they're similar, work well together. And so what you want to do is, let's say this one is the underperformer. You want to pause that one. And what you want to do is you want to take the best one, let's say it's this one, by looking at the CTR, the conversion rate, and the cost per conversion. You want to copy that. You want to paste this one. Let's say it's the best one. And then you want to make sure you click that, otherwise it won't paste it. And we're going to make the variation based on this best performer. So we want to just change one thing about it. So let's say it could well be that the main keyword is working the best. So we'll change the call to action on this one and see how that one does. So now we'll take the new variation that just got pasted and we'll change this CTA here. So what we'll do is we'll go free consult with top lawyer, something like that. And then hit save and see if this one works best. And you let that one run for a while, see which one's the best out of these three, drop the underperformer and do the same thing again. And you just do this on an ongoing basis over time until you have some very good performing ads, and you'll find that all three of them are doing approximately the same over time. Sometimes one stops performing and so you need to drop it off, etc. But that's basically the ongoing process for optimizing the ads on an ongoing basis. What you want to do after you've had a period of time and you have about 30 to 50 qualified conversions come through your campaign is you want to test maximize conversions bidding strategy and broad match keywords. And so what you want to do is duplicate the campaign and set the bidding strategy to maximize conversions. And you can also set a target CPA, which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is the target cost per acquisition you want this campaign to optimize for. And you want to change all the keywords to broad match. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to allow Google to take the data that it built on the conversions that we got through already and then try and optimize the account to find more people like these at a lower cost. And if you do this correctly and you train it correctly, I've seen this work extremely well. What can happen is the cost per qualified conversion can go down from as much as 25% to as much as 75% lower than what you were paying before on the exact match campaign. I've seen that happen. And so if you do it correctly, you can see the benefit of this. If you're paying $500 per click and it's costing you $25,000 per client that you acquire, if you can drop that by 75%, you might only be paying somewhere about $5,000 instead. So that's why this is very valuable and is extremely important if you want to make this profitable and actually make the campaign work. So what you want to do is go to the campaign that you made and you want to go copy and you want to go paste. You can pause it just to make sure all the settings are done first. Paste it and then we'll make the settings. Now, one note while this is loading is that I would leave the exact match running until you're 100% sure that this new campaign is working well. So at least for the first month or so, until you make sure that the broad match campaign is actually working and bringing in the kind of leads you want, I wouldn't pause the exact match version until you're sure. So you can run them both at the same time. But over time, what you can start doing is lowering the budget on the exact match one and raising it on the broad match one if it's performing well, and just keep letting that go until it stops performing. Okay, so now it's pasted the new one in. So if we go back here, you can see search to. So let's say that's our campaign. So what you'd want to do is you want to click this gear icon and you want to go to bidding here, and you want to change the strategy and you want to go maximize conversions. And I would select conversions. I would select target cost per acquisition, and I would input the number that you've currently been paying for the cost per acquisition in the other campaign. So say, for example, it's been costing you $1,500 per lead. I would put that in here to start with and then gradually bring that down over time as this campaign performs. Odds are that it's probably going to find them for much lower than this anyway, but this is what I would put in here just to begin with. And the other thing that you want to do is the keyword. So for now, we're just going to hit save on this. You hit save over here. All right. And now we're going to go into the campaign and we're going to select the ad groups. Now, if you've got more than one, you're going to have to go individually and do this on all of them, or you could select all the keywords at once. Basically, I'm going to select them all. I'm going to go edit, change match types, change all match types to broad match and hit apply. And so now you'll see that those square brackets are removed and it's set to broad match. And so now these are in broad match. And now that's basically it. Everything else can stay the same. And then you want to hit enable. And now that campaign will also start now running and letting Google now optimize for you to find people at a lower rate. And so you just need to let that campaign run for a while. So I suggest you put a bit of a test budget towards it, maybe like 50% or less of what you were spending on the other one. Let it do its thing and see how it performs and then raise it from there. Now, there's one important note that you need to be aware of when it comes to these conversion optimizations and this broad match campaign. This will only properly optimize for the campaigns that you already were sending back. So what that means is if you were running a family law campaign and now all of a sudden you try to launch a personal injury campaign on Broadmatch, that's not going to work because you didn't send the correct conversions back to Google's algorithm to optimize for those people, because optimizing for family law leads is not the same as people for personal injury. And so that's one mistake you need to avoid. You must train it on the correct conversions first before you let it loose on Broadmatch to optimize for those conversions. So don't get tricked into running one type of campaign and then trying to get it to do Broadmatch for the other, because there's a very high chance that it's not going to work out. So you need to train it properly first for the exact type of inquiries or conversions that you want to get, and then test out the Broadmatch strategy with the maximized conversions and see then if it's going to work, because then it may well do so, but the other way it won't. So just be aware of that point. It's very important. Now, one final note for this video before we round out for the people that stayed right to the end: ignore the Google recommendations. What I mean by this is, as you're working on your account, you're going to constantly see some of the recommendations pop up. I'm going to see if I can find one here for you. They usually pop up as a box here. There you go. Your ads aren't as prominent if you added images, whatever. Now, you'll see a whole bunch of them here that they constantly try and push on you. If by some chance you get on a call with a Google rep, they're going to try and push you to actually do all of these and add them. And worst of all, they're going to get you to do auto apply, which basically means that you select all these and then Google's systems automatically apply all these things to your account. This is a terrible idea, because not only do most of these recommendations not work and they're not personalized, they're just blanket stuff that they put there to try and get you to spend more money and just apply these things. Quite frankly, most of them are illogical. The other problem you have is if it's done auto apply, you have no idea now what's going on. You can't properly test the campaign, see if what you were doing was working, because it's just constantly changing, adding new keywords, doing whatever it wants, and you have no idea what's going on. So when it inevitably stops working, you're not going to know how to fix it. So definitely ignore the recommendations and do not hit auto apply under any circumstance in your account. Trust me on this, it's going to save you a bunch of money. If you do, you may as well set your money on fire. Please be aware of that. So that is it for this video for running law firm PPC in 2025. If you follow this guide, I guarantee you that you're going to get extremely good results with this, because this is exactly what I do and it works very well. However, if you don't want to mess about with this and you would rather I do this for you on a no-win, no-fee basis, go to dominatemarketing.io. You can book a call with me there and I can do all this for you for your PPC campaign and get you results, and you only pay when inquiries actually come through that campaign. So if that's something you'd be interested in, go to dominatemarketing.io. You can fill out the form and book a call with me there. Otherwise, I hope you found this useful. Catch you on the next one.